Back to Road Gang Radio with Jimmy Mack, Lindsay Lawler.
Give me a minute, y'all. I'm coming.
And you, because if you're listening, you're in the gang. Take it away, founding member Phone Master Dre.
You are in the gang, the Road Gang, and we are live from Fast Sports Studios in good old NOLA, which we'll be going over to Franklin very soon.
Yeah, the Lawler known as Lindsay, the ambassador herself, Madam Ambassador, will be joining us at the top of the next hour. Don't forget, we've got an up-and-coming country and western sensation doing a little Christmas music, and one of our favorite vets, the best vet as far as we're concerned, the one that actually makes the time to talk to you about not only taking care of your pets at home, but how you can actually take care of them on the road. Can't wait for those conversations to kick in. But before we get to any of that, it is also one of the longest running segments on this show, and one we hope that continues for a long time. A lot of our friends, as you guys probably heard in my rant and my rave, did not stand by us in our moment of need. Our friends at OOIDA, in regards to content providing, have always been there, and I think they are there not only for us, but they're for you, those of you who get your news from us and your information about what is going on with the fat cats on Capitol Hill as they wade through the swamp. And by the way, I don't know if you heard this one, but maybe we should stop calling it the swamp and start calling it the sewer. A swamp is a wonderful thing that actually filters water and offers people a lot of great hunting opportunities. Collin Long joins us, by the way. He is the Director of Government Affairs over at OOIDA. And, man, he and I are going to get into it today because it's a topic that I am very invested in. Let's talk about that recent crackdown on training schools that is going on. You guys must be delighted to a large degree about this action. And good morning.
Yeah, good morning. I want to talk about sewers and swamps, though. I live here. I get so annoyed when people call it the swamp because there's actually quite a few of us that live in D.C. and love D.C. So to call it a sewer is a bridge too far for me.
I meant Capitol Hill, brother. When anytime I say
I live on Capitol Hill.
Yeah, but here's the you don't have a. Do you have a bed over in your offices over there? Do you have a bed over there? You know what I'm saying. I get you.
Not yet. The way we're going, we might need some cots because it's been a whirlwind this year. I mean, there's been a lot going on, and as soon as we think the dust settles, FMCSA makes their next move, and this one with the training schools is obviously a welcomed one. I mean, they're taking thousands of training schools off the registry, which is exactly what we kind of anticipated happening when the entry-level driver training rule went into effect. And I think Derek Barr is coming on board. Sean Duffy is the Secretary of Transportation before him. I think they've demonstrated they're listening to drivers, and they're trying to not only improve safety, but do it in a manner where you kill two birds with one stone and you improve professionalism in the industry, which is something OOIDA has always been lobbying for. We know that you can kill many birds with one stone here in D.C. and I think that approach is being embraced by DOT and certainly by FMCSA, and we applaud them.
By the way, I dislike your city so much that I'm going there for about 4 or 5 days next week. As you well know, I head up to Maine tomorrow.
Yeah.
I head up to Maine tomorrow, and then I spend about 3 days up there at the Driver's Lounge for Rees Across America, and then I jump on a plane to be in town for both the Vet Ready Summit and Transition Trucking, Driving for Excellence, which, by the way, OOIDA always makes sure that the 3 finalists have memberships to OOIDA, which is a really, really cool thing as well that goes on over there. This is a really exciting thing for me because in many ways we've talked about the interconnectedness of things, that if you really focus hard on one particular thing, it just starts turning the stone over. I can't help but to some degree believe the first guest we had on after that terrible accident in Florida was Andy Polikoff, who is the head of the CVTA. Oh, yeah. He wanted to come in, and we dug in really deep into that, and we've had a lot of conversations with our friends over there. They weren't delighted by what happened in Florida, but they were excited about the possibilities of what this new attention means. And I have 2 questions. The first of which is, when does it start? I mean, when do they really start the crackdown? And the follow-up question is, do you think, as I was telling Jim Park, because Canada's having the same problem and is beginning to have a start in the right direction as well, too, do you think a lot of the fly-by-nighters are going to fly? Because I think it might have the effect of, if people see that they actually are serious, a lot of the really awful practitioners are going to go, you know what, I made my money, The other concern is, I can promise you, if there's a CDL mill, there's something attached to it that's pretty ugly and dirty too. They may just want to get out before they get investigated. Okay, those are the two questions. When do they start, and what will be the unintended positive consequences?
Yeah, well, first off, Andy is so great, and I think he and his organization deserve a lot of credit for moves like this, because they seem to typically represent the training schools you want drivers to visit and you want drivers to register at. And they've been very clear with us, and I believe with the administration, that they support this crackdown and weeding out the bad actors, because it's giving everyone in the industry, not just training schools, but everyone in the industry, a black eye. So bravo to Andy and his work. We've been happy to support their efforts. They've really been leading the charge. But timeline, I mean, this announcement was made Monday. I guess they're giving folks 30 days to prove that they are in fact in compliance before their licenses are basically revoked. So I think a month from now, we're going to see a lot of these training schools kind of go up in smoke, and that's a good thing for the industry, because we know the ones that FMCSA are targeting, and certainly not all of them. I mean, that 30-day window is there to allow the folks who just kind of got caught in this to demonstrate that they are in compliance and they're doing things right, and we're certain they're going to do that. But ultimately, it's going to weed out the bad actors, and that's what we're focusing on right now. And I think it makes sense to give folks the 30-day period. I mean, our members are constantly getting caught, getting snagged by problems that are beyond their control or can simply be remedied. And I think it's responsible to give folks an opportunity to demonstrate that they can be in compliance or that they are in compliance. But ultimately, I mean, 30 days from now, I think you're going to see a lot of training schools go up in smoke, and we applaud that. I'm going to end every statement. We applaud that.
Yeah. By the way, I also want to agree with you about the 30 days. And guys, don't think it's giving people a chance to engage in cover up. And if people want to, remember the old great line about Jefferson Davis that Abraham Lincoln said? He goes, if Jeff Davis just happens before we can get our hands on him, slip across the border into Mexico and never get seen again, I'd be quite all right with that. If some of these companies want to, pick up their shingles and simply evaporate into the ether, never to be seen again, fine. But the 30-day thing is important, because I want to give you an example of what somebody who might get accidentally swept up. There are some mom and pop training schools. There are some people who have been doing it for 50 years. They have an old. I'll give you an example. They have an old spare parts yard that they have done some really great work in moving stuff out. It's a family who actually are truck drivers. They're really good at it. They have a real incredible gift. Their paperwork and their back end office stuff is a little bit shaky, but the education that the people who go there get is pretty spectacular. This is kind of giving those people a chance to say, hey, listen, look, we know you're doing legit work. Get your books in order, so when we look at it, we can just give you our blessing. Those are the kind of things, because there are a number of very small businesses that do exceptional work of getting people ready, sometimes better because they stay friends with the people they bring on and give them a continuing education of a different sort. That's a really crucial thing. It also means when they bust you, you had your chance.
Yeah, true. And, I think if you're following the rules and you're trying to be compliant, chances are you're not snagged in this. I mean, I'm not naive to the fact that there are good, reputable training schools out there who probably have received notice that they've got 30 days to demonstrate their compliance, and I hope they're capable of doing that. I certainly believe they will be. But by and large, I mean, the schools who are doing things right don't have much to sweat right now, because they probably didn't get any sort of notification from USDOT. And I think that things will work their way out. I think they're not targeting the folks who have clerical errors in their filings, and that's certainly what FMCSA has indicated to us. So ultimately, this effort is going to focus on what is really important, and that's getting the bad actors who are deliberately non-compliant or evasive or whatever term you want to use. The folks who are cutting corners and aren't up to snuff are ultimately going to be weeded out, and that's something that I think everyone in the industry has to look at and say, good for FMCSA, because like I said, it accomplishes several goals. Not only is this going to improve highway safety because we're going to make sure that new drivers are getting the type of training that they are required to get and that they need to operate safely, but it's going to enhance professionalism because the bad actors in the industry, no matter who they are, motor carriers, training schools, brokers, whoever it is, FMCSA is kind of on the prowl right now, and they're coming after a lot of these bad actors because they know what it does to safety and they know what it does to professionalism. So we're certainly pleased that things are moving in the right direction on a number of fronts, and this is just one of many.
By the way, I have just sent you a text. I showed it to Dre this morning. I feel like my spirit animals have shown up between you and Dean Croak. We were making the joke earlier that you know how you'll say something and then look down at your phone and it's been obviously listening because a news story or something has come up.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like both you and Dean this morning have been like the human version of that phone, that I have like been working on stuff and thinking about stuff. This is something I have really been kind of digging into as well too, because the other thing about proper training, and I know this is a little bit off the track of what you guys do in terms of advocacy, but I want to remind people that a properly trained driver, he or she knows their worth, that if you take the time to give them good CDL training and then you make demands of whoever their first employer is to actually give them the finishing touches, by the end of the year, the driver should have a much better sense of what their actual worth is because they actually will know how much work they have to do as opposed to being, I call it the first 5 years, the slow drip, where you find out, wait, I got to do that too. I got to do that too when you're not properly trained. And then you realize you're being vastly underpaid for all the things you do. I'm going to say something, and you don't have to agree with this. I think that there are certain people in the trucking sector, legitimate people, I mean, I don't mean like fly-by-nighters, who have a deep investment in this sort of slapdash training because it gives them a workforce that they can get away with underpaying. You don't have to back me up on that statement, and I don't think it is what I would call an active thought.
I would love to back you up. I mean, we totally agree. We think we've gotten to this point on a number of fronts because a lot of those actors in our industry have been really influential as far as policymakers are concerned. And a lot of their policies that they promote here in Washington and in state capitals are always designed to bring in the cheapest labor possible. We've seen it with English language proficiency. We've seen it with non-dom CDLs. We've seen it with training schools. So, yeah, I mean, we totally agree with that sentiment. It's something we've been saying here in Washington for quite a while, and now we're turning a corner, and we have a Department of Transportation and an FMCSA who agrees with us. And as a result, you're seeing action on English language proficiency and non-dom CDLs and now training schools. So I think the jig is up. The folks who are using the political system and the regulatory system to advance cheap labor policies are running out of time because there's a new administration in town. They are listening to drivers, and drivers are telling them you need to take care of these things because we see the ramifications on the highways and we see the ramifications in our careers and our working conditions. So things are moving in the right direction, and I think it's about time that some of these bad actors from a motor carrier perspective and their organizations here in D.C. take some losses, and that's what's happening right now. And I'm sure they're going to spin their PR to say they've always supported this.
Well, I was just going to say,
we just know that's not true.
I was just going to say, you know how you know you've really won? When the people who are normally opposed to you pretend they agreed with you all along. That's when you know you've actually really won. That's when you know that Casey is not coming to the bat, and there will be no joy in Mudville, man. The strikeout doesn't even happen. He's on the injured reserve list. Look, this is one of those moments, too, though, and I'm going to actually pick on drivers and a whole bunch of people here when I say this. This is one of those moments where I think people ought to be thankful that DB is the head of the FMCSA. And I'll tell you why. There's a lot of people say, it's got to be a trucker, it's got to be a trucker. Well, it's close to a trucker, good enough. I actually, and I'm a little biased, too, because of law enforcement, I actually think the idea of having a cop in that position, because the job's principal design is to be one of enforcement. It is neither one that is, it needs
Correct.
to be one of enforcement. And this is one of the most encouraging things, is not the policy, but to rather than having simply an administrator in the position, you have somebody who has years of experience having worked his way up the ranks as a trooper. and knows how to
Yeah.
actually enforce the law in such a way that it is efficient and not just not just a wild crackdown. Because there have been elements, I'm going to be really honest with you, of this administration where they've done what I call, right idea, absolutely wrong execution. But with this man in this position, there's a real opportunity to do it forcefully, to do it
Yep.
emphatically, but also to do it right. Because I want to know what this actually looks like in 30 days when the starter pistol goes off. I mean, how do they
Yeah.
do it? What is the system of maintenance here that makes this possible and happen?
Yeah, I don't have those answers yet.
Exactly.
I think
Exactly.
we're going to have conversations certainly to try and determine that because we need to know, but I don't think anyone really knows yet because, and frankly, nothing against previous administrators and previous secretaries. I mean, I think they were looking in the wrong directions. I think Bars being from law enforcement has come in and said, here's some easy, obvious steps, common sense steps we can take to improve safety. Whereas previously folks were talking about, mandates and technology requirements, and that frustrated our members every day because there was much lower hanging fruit. And now we're seeing someone with a law enforcement background come in, and I think our members, you're right, a lot of our members always want a trucker to be the head of FMCSA, and I agree with them. I mean, why not? But you're right. I mean, this is the type of cop they should be saying, well, we're glad he's on duty over at FMCSA because the steps he's taking to clean up the industry are all good for the drivers who run compliant, who want to make a long and safe career out of trucking, and frankly, ultimately want to potentially become their own small business owner. I mean, he's moving in a right pro-trucker direction, even though he is from a law enforcement background, which doesn't necessarily sound like a natural fit for truckers. But I think the proof is in the pudding, and all the steps he's made since he came on board, and frankly, all the steps DOT made before he was actually confirmed and in place have demonstrated that things are changing in Washington when it comes to trucking policy, and the focus isn't on improving safety through technology and mandates and overregulation and heavy-handedness. It's through weeding out the bad actors that are currently in our industry through common sense policies, and we're all on board.
By the way, I'm going to go completely in the weeds and actually mention a New York mayor, not the current one, the one back in the day that everybody agrees might have been the greatest mayor of any city of all time. That's Fiorello LaGuardia. And, so beloved that he was endorsed not only by his own Republican Party, but by the Democratic Party and by the Socialist Party of New York. I'm not kidding. He was that popular. And, he was incredibly progressive in a very different meaning of the word, but in regards to social services and being there for people and creating an opportunity society. But the first thing he had to do was take on the mob in New York City.
Yeah.
And he didn't do anything in regards to reforming slums, in regards to making sure that children had meals in the morning during the Depression. And he did all of that, but he couldn't get to it until he did the one thing that had to be done, which was clean up the system and let people know that they could have faith that the government would enforce the laws equally upon everyone. And I think in many ways what positions Barr so uniquely here is that he knows how to create the infrastructure of a roadside check, of a widespread, because Florida ain't small. And it's very difficult to police properly on its highways because it can turn into the Daytona 500 over there, and also got a lot of Wild West players. He got it under control there. There's a real opportunity to do this in a way that then allows them to pivot to quality of life things. You can't make pay better until you get the people who aren't paying better out of the system. You can't make safety better until you get the people who are not engaged in safety out of the system. And that's the hope here. That's why people have such hope about this as well. Is there anything our listeners can do to ensure this is done right? I mean, like I said, you guys must be because you're still in the point of having a conversation of how this is going to go down, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's a lot of information that will probably come out over the next several months, and I don't necessarily think this is the only step DOT is going to take. I mean, they weed out the system, but then there's kind of maintenance of the system that is required. I think you touched on that earlier, and we know that all of these fly-by-nights are certainly capable of reinventing themselves and finding loopholes and chinks in the armor and working their way back into the system because there's money to be made. So there's going to have to be some sort of long-term maintenance or oversight approach. And I think we look forward to having those conversations with FMCSA, and I'm sure Andy's organization will be doing the same.
Oh, they are delighted.
And
They
we'll
are
look to help them. Yeah.
They are delighted. What it's like to feel like Cassandra for the better part of 5 years. And one of our friends over on the chat, Star Driver number 1, who, hey ho, it's showtime, says crappy driving schools, not enforcing the English proficiency, and third-party testing have been the downfall of this industry for years. Really quickly, by the way, and we always know that we have a lot of listeners who, by the way, a lot of our listeners are literally your demographic. A lot of these guys are independent operators, owner-operators. But there are a few people getting onboarded. Can you talk a little bit about third-party testing? Where are you guys in regards to what is OOIDA's position on third-party testing, and what would you like to see either made better about it or eliminated about it?
Yeah, it's hard to give a real coherent response to that, because I think when it comes to third-party testers, we're leery of a lot of them because they haven't necessarily demonstrated they should have our trust. But we're also not naive to the fact that there are those out there who are doing a really good job. So I don't know how to fully respond to that question, to be totally honest. But we've always had a hesitation or a caution, I guess you could say, about third parties, because who is sending drivers there, how they're attracting drivers, how those drivers are being treated when they go out into the industry. I think that draws a lot of questions that we don't necessarily have with other training schools like community colleges, the like. So yeah, I don't really have a good answer for you.
That's a good answer.
I guess I'm gonna have to pick up the phone and talk to Todd Spencer and get more of a history lesson on third parties before I come back and give you a real coherent answer.
That's actually a really coherent answer. The idea is that, we're going to reserve judgment because we know that there are people who are actually playing by the rules. The problem is, it sounds like another place where if the FMCSA wants to actually do its job, it can make sure that there are strong guardrails in which these people operate, and certain levels of, what is it, the great Russian thing that Reagan threw back in their face of trust but verify? I mean,
thank you for answering my question.
But you did.
That's a much better answer than I gave.
Well, if I'm able to re-articulate back what you said to you in a coherent fashion, it means you answered the question. Okay, so like I said, the fire hose that is happening on the Hill continues. Like I said, I was talking to Jamie Jones at Landline, and one of the biggest challenges you guys are going through right now, and I mean anybody, I'm going through it. I wake up in the morning, I used to get notifications about news, and it was, Bob blew out a tire and a continuing resolution. It is literally, a news extravaganza, an information extravaganza, an opportunity extravaganza, but you got to almost figure out, so what do we prioritize? Because everything's coming at once. So where do you pivot to now?
I think let's keep in mind a lot of the good progress that's being made is being done on the regulatory side, and the agency doesn't get bogged down by the political system when they start to advance policies like this and like the non-dom issue. So we keep supporting them and giving them our feedback about what steps need to be taken in addition to what they've already done. We're getting to a point where they've done so much, it's like, well, what's left from the regulatory side? But really the problem in D.C. is the quagmire on Capitol Hill and this hope that...
You mean like a swamp?
Everything... Sure, like a swamp. That everything is on hold as far as trucking policy is concerned because there's this highway bill, the Surface Transportation Reauthorization Bill coming. We hope to have it this year. That obviously got delayed. We hope to have it next year, but everything is in a holding pattern waiting for the introduction of that legislation. So on all of these topics, we haven't talked about truck parking as much as we usually do because we're waiting to see what happens with the Surface Transportation Bill. We haven't talked about restroom access as much as we usually do because everything that's over on the political side is just being delayed and delayed and delayed. And that's reflective of where our political system is today in the U.S. That's just, I think everybody knows that. What has Congress really been accomplishing lately because the two parties just can't get along? And the answer is not much. So when you have a prospect of a massive spending bill like a highway bill, even though it's spending our members' appreciate and depend upon. Congress looks at it and they think, oh, this is going to be really difficult to get done. But it has to get done. It has to get done because we need things like parking investment and restroom access and a crackdown on lease-to-own schemes. And the list goes on and on and on. There will be more things coming out. I don't want to get ahead of our champions on Capitol Hill, but there's more legislation coming. There's probably going to be something on chameleon carriers really soon, which I think is great. There was an indication that FMCSA is following that closely, Capitol Hill following that issue closely as well, and I think we're going to see some sort of a breakthrough relatively soon on chameleon carriers. But we're not under the impression that if a chameleon carrier bill is introduced in the next week or two in the House, it's going to pass anytime soon because it's going to get rolled into surface transportation, and we don't know when that's coming, and we frankly don't know if Congress is capable of passing it because of the loggerheads they're at on seemingly every issue. And if you can't tell, I'm a little frustrated because we feel like our tails are up here in Washington from an OOIDA perspective. We've got a lot of really good things going. We've got a lot of really good bills introduced by Republicans, by Democrats, by members of the House, by members of the Senate. We're ready for that highway bill to take shape because we think we can deliver a lot of really pro-trucker policies in it. So I'm frustrated because I want Congress to work like it used to. I want them to pass these big bills and get money out the door for things like truck parking because, frankly, I mean, it's not Washington's money. It's truckers' money. You're paying into the system. The system should then address your needs and your concerns, and truck parking is one of them. That's just one of many examples. But we're really hoping that something happens with the highway bill here in the next 6 months because we've got so much lined up positive that we want to get it done, and we want to show truckers how much, frankly, Washington and the country appreciates them by addressing all of their needs.
It's interesting, by the way, the next time you and I get a chance to talk, whether face-to-face while I'm in D.C. or here on this particular segment on Radio Nemo, let's talk about what I call the double-barrel job of enforcement, then followed by opportunity. I think too many of the previous FMCSA administrators focused too much on opportunity, whether it was for the business of trucking or for the people who get an opportunity to become truckers. It is interesting to see if a different approach of enforcing what is on the books works first, and then in doing so creates the kind of atmosphere in which everybody can have an opportunity. Collin Long has joined us as he is off to do. He is the regular recurring guest star of Road Gang Radio for Washington Trucking Week. We love you, brother. I hope I get a chance to see you. You're going to be in D.C. next week?
I am. I might have some conflicts, but I'm going to try to make it work.
All right. I have a couple more days than I usually do, so maybe I'll be able to track you down and terrorize you. Thank you, brother.